My goal is to reach 40,000 subscribers on GlobeTrotting by the end of the year. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. The Airbus A380 is often referred to by many as the king of the skies, and it is a plane that has undoubtedly made a lasting impression on the aviation industry. It was designed during the quad-engine era, where plane makers undertook relevant steps to outdo each other, and notably remove Boeing's strong dominance in the long-haul market that they had enjoyed for some time. It was also designed to be the largest commercial airliner capable of carrying hundreds of passengers across continents at any point. Emirates, which is one of the world's leading airlines, has become really the flagship for the 380. Operating a great fleet of these gigantic planes. At its peak, Emirates flew more Airbus A380s than most customers combined, with 100 active units. With such a reliance on the model, questions would always persist about how one day Emirates would replace the A380 within their portfolio. Of course, Airbus was also trying to understand how they would revitalize the program, which really struggled for sales considerably despite its size and what Airbus would tell you its ability to. In comes the A380plus, a study that had promise per Airbus, but one that the Dubai-based Emirates rejected. Why though? Well, Emirates' decision not to order the A380 Plus was a significant development in the aviation industry, and a telling tale for the A380 program overall. Many people believed it was the nail in the coffin for the A380's long-term place within the industry, as a commitment to the plane from Emirates at such a scale could have been what they needed to extend the life of this wide-body's production even further. But for Emirates, several factors contributed to this decision ultimately. Emirates, as I've covered, and as I'm sure you do know too, had already amassed a pretty substantial fleet of A380s and was looking to optimize its operations for efficiency but also cost effectiveness. Yes, the A380 worked, and yes, the company has and continues to be open to new alterations, something that definitely rings home today. However, at the time of the A380 Plus and the idea that Airbus were potentially exploring future studies, Emirates maintained that their priority was more on a re-engine of the A380, in the form of a Neo rather than a Plus. The Plus would look towards enhancing certain specifications but wouldn't harbour, say, a major engine upgrade. Emirates were, and you'd argue even nowadays still, of the firm assumption that as engine makers develop brand new pieces of technology, implementing such onto a plane like the A380 could actually be fantastic. But it's felt like Emirates and Airbus have never quite seen eye to eye on the A380 program's future direction. It is also worth considering that at the time of the A380 Plus emerging into the industry, Emirates was also trying to determine the direction that they'd head in the future themselves. This included debating aircraft orders for other wide-body aircraft, but in the form of twin-engine, and this is the way that the aviation industry has truly moved in recent times, away from your fantastic-looking quad-engine planes towards just planes that are going to bring in more efficient operations and be more reliable. But Airbus had goals for the Plus that weren't achieved. So what does the plane entail to give us really a better understanding of what it could have offered Emirates hypothetically? The study would have seen new large winglets. In my opinion, this is probably one of the most visually noticeable differences between it and the A380-800. Airbus said that the aircraft could offer 4% fuel burn savings. Aerodynamic improvements, meanwhile, would have also been introduced with a focus on wing refinements. Airbus quoted the plane at having a 13% cost per seat reduction benefit compared to what they were offering with the Dash 800, which is the model that ultimately was released. Optimization of the cabin would allow for additional seating to be installed, this of course permitting an airline wishing to activate the potential that was there, meaning say for airlines that are looking to fly between hubs, it could be just what they were after. At least this is what Airbus were mainly hoping for, despite its design and many promises that people believe existed. Improving the existing A380 base by making it a more desirable aircraft in the form of an A380 Plus still saw it largely face the same problems that were already existing with the A380-800, and I think many people would make the argument that if anything the A380 Plus worsened these, given the platform for the new variant didn't really exist. Yes, there was an A380 base, but at this point in time, that aircraft as a base was already struggling, and that is why the company was looking towards studies to keep the program alive. So to build upon an aircraft that already had its issues does bring in new ones altogether. The market was ultimately changing and looking towards more point-to-point travel. As a result, most companies that one day would have looked towards the 747 or maybe an A380 had it been released earlier, were heading elsewhere. These types of planes simply lost their appeal. There were only a handful of carriers still remaining that were truly interested in such an aircraft type, and taking a look at it, it's really only Emirates, and unfortunately when they express their lack of interest for an A380plus, well then that really tells you how that study is going to head in trajectory, and it's not going to be the most positive overall. For Emirates especially, what they were after, and the only means in which they would likely commit to additional A380s would be through a re-engine. Emirates reiterated that they also believed a re-engine would harbour many benefits than what, say, Airbus noted with its A380plus. Thus, the question remains of why they would commit to an aircraft that they didn't see positive returns on. You can understand why it makes sense and why they had a general lack of interest. Essentially, Airbus put forward the Plus, knowing that their biggest customer may take some interest, but Emirates came back and said, look, we're more interested in this kind of alternative. This is something, though, Airbus has not pursued in any sense, still to this day as we move in towards 2024. You could make the case that the A380 Plus was a mistake on Airbus's part, as they were looking towards a plane that maybe just wasn't ideal for their main supporter. Or you could make the case that Emirates' expectations have been unrealistic, and for Airbus to move ahead with an A380neo, there's much more to it than just Emirates' interest, including working with key engine manufacturers that are ultimately seeing a shift in their own focus too. Emirates did reject the premise for the A380 Plus for many reasons as covered in this video, and there is much more on top of this. What I've gone over is really only the surface. There is a lot more. But if you do just want to simplify it and leave it on a great general note, the understanding has to be that the aircraft wasn't optimal for them at any point. You could argue that it wasn't what they were requesting from the plane maker. Yes, they had actually made it known, and they still to this day make it known that they're interested in an A380neo or a potential high-capacity aircraft, but the Plus just wasn't there for them. When considering also costs involved to upgrade, purchase an aircraft, development at Airbus, an upgrade was just deemed not worth it by the European plane maker. They've seen their focus shift elsewhere, and as production has come to a close on their A380-800, they believe the space can be utilised for better circumstances, and you would be hard-pressed to argue with that, with many more areas of the business deserving a larger scope of attention, whether that be with current commercial airplanes or looking into the next 10 to 20 years and how planes will be powered in the future. Thank you very much for watching this analysis. Any thoughts? Let me know down below in the comments on maybe why Emirates weren't too fond of the A380 Plus. Take care, do be safe, and I'll see you next time right back here on GlobeTrotting for more analysis. And we'll fly.